So, I mean, we have 20 million people that engage with us on an annual basis. We have 19 international coalitions and 32 US coalition chapters. Yeah, so we have a robust women's ministry and a Keller Center and a Carson Center. So, yeah, we do quite a bit. And
Well, hello and welcome to the Church Office Podcast. My name is Gavin Smith, and it's a joy today to welcome you to our admin operations podcast. We love talking about the work of ministry behind the scenes, and we love getting guests on. And today's special guest is Zach Cochran from the Gospel Coalition. Mate, welcome to the podcast.
Gavin, it's great to be here. Appreciate all you do, and it's a joy to have a conversation with you today.
Mate, really excited to talk to him, and we're going to be learning a little bit about the Gospel Coalition, a little bit about work. And Zach's got the same kind of passion as me. We love operations. We want to serve churches. And so this podcast will just be focusing to that today. So really looking forward to kind of spending time together. Before we get going, let me just give a big shout out to Church Suite, who sponsor the podcast. Gavin and the team at Church Suite have developed a fantastic tool for churches, for church management. This will help you significantly in your work. If you've not heard of them, then please go and check them out at churchsuite.com. It's helpful for communications. It's helpful for a database, your rotas, your child check-in, your groups, your services. The list of things just go on and on and on. And Gavin said, we've got a new look and a new design. So please go and check it out and sign up to Church Suite. Zach, it's great to have you on. Great to have an American on, particularly when we're in this kind of World Cup fever at the minute. Are America loving the fact that they're hosting this?
We are, until we got disappointed by our performance this weekend. It was quite underwhelming. I think there's a lot of hype that happened.
Yeah.
Oh, America, can they do this? And all of a sudden, we realized we can't.
I know you guys started so well in the tournament.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, these guys are a real threat. And then you just had this drama that really just seemed to just like ruin it. Balogun's red card, Trump stepping in, this whole conspiracy now that's going on behind the scenes with FIFA. Mate, what do Americans make of this?
Well, Americans will find anything to fight over. I know that.
Okay.
And Trump getting involved, it just, we can't think about soccer. We got to think about something else. So
Yeah.
he gave a good distraction to fight over, given the loss.
It's great to watch, and I'm excited to see. Well, England are kind of quarterfinals, and I don't know when this podcast is going out, but if we make it all the way, then we might have to get you back on, mate, and celebrate. Yeah. It's great. So, mate, Zach, tell us about your role, because you're the Vice President for Operations for the Gospel Coalition. For our listeners in the UK, what is the Gospel Coalition?
Yeah. The Gospel Coalition exists to renew and unify the contemporary church in the ancient gospel. The legends of Tim Keller and Don Carson got together years ago over coffee, and they just realized that their friendship crossed denominations, crossed tertiary theological convictions, and they both believed and preached the same gospel. And they had a burden for pastors and theologians doing this at a larger scale. So they got pastors and theologians across denominational lines, tribal lines, and they met for their first council meeting. And they formed a council. They wrote a confessional statement. They wrote a theological vision for ministry.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people think of the Gospel Coalition as this website of articles, but it actually was birthed out of friendship. The first thing we did was gather. And out of that gathering, they thought, well, this could really help the church. So that's when we formed our website and wrote resources. So now we are a resourcing ministry for the local church. We exist to serve the local church. Our mantra is, if we're in the Olympics, we never get gold. We always either get silver or lower, because we exist to create resources for the local church. And so we have a council of 45 to 50 council members that are pastors and theologians that are kind of the and this is a global council that they're putting the finger in the air and
Mm,
examining the threats to the local church, and we'll convene once a year to talk about those things, and then our content team will create podcasts and resources and articles and books
mm,
to help the local church through curriculum or a video series or
yeah.
articles. And then we have a conference. We do this. We just ran our women's conference. We're around 9,000 women. We're in
Wow.
Indianapolis last month, and then we'll have our upcoming church conference next summer,
Mm,
next April actually. We want to be the most helpful place for the local church. They think of us as their greatest encourager and equiper. Many of us, as you know, this podcast exists
mm.
to know that seminary didn't train us for everything, right?
Indeed.
And so we're trying to help
Yeah.
continue that education and continue that equipping, but also stay current to the current challenges
Yeah,
of
yeah.
church leadership.
Mate, love that. They've got a fantastic heart. And you and I met because you were putting on a kind of cohort of training for kind of
Yeah,
executive pastors, which essentially is equivalent to here as kind of church managers or church operations directors,
yeah,
different titles, but the same kind of role. And you've got a passion, haven't you, to equip people in this area, similar to that I have.
yeah, yeah. I just found myself under equipped for the role that God
Mm,
put me in.
mm,
Um, the church is a family, but it's also an organization,
yeah.
and both those things can be true. But we were only trained to shepherd and preach and counsel,
Yeah.
and the Lord put me in a role and also gifted me with administrative and operational skills. And I just when I led this cohort, because if I would have only knew this
Mm,
way before I started my role or in
mm,
the midst of the role,
yeah.
and the only way I got through it is brothers helping me and giving me
Yeah.
wisdom and
Yeah.
encouraging me.
Yeah.
And I hope in a little bit, in a little way, that I can do the same thing for others.
Yeah, I love that. And it was a fantastic cohort, just sort of, 1 to 2 hour sessions every week, just getting together. And you put us into small groups. And what was lovely is there was kind of this relational part of it as well. So it's not just the content, but actually connecting
Yeah.
with people who are in similar roles, with similar challenges that are going on. And I love the heart of the Gospel Coalition. And that's, your history. Tell us a bit about some of the churches that you've been in and some of the roles that you've played in there, just to give us a bit more context of your experience.
Yeah, so some of I started out in ministry in parachurch doing college and high school campus ministry. I was a college collegiate athlete, university athlete, um, and that's how I cut my teeth on
Yeah.
evangelism and discipleship. I started on the ground and not in the seminary. The Lord continued to call me into church ministry. So when me and my wife got engaged, I got into church ministry. It was a very part-time role, and I was doing seminary at the time. And at that time, one of our elders ran a local medical device equipment repair company, and he hired me out of generosity, not out of qualifications. um, and through working for the operational side of his business, I really was drawn toward
Mm,
operational
mm,
leadership.
mm,
So measuring things, Excel sheets, all the things
yeah.
that go on the operations side. At the same time,
Mm,
I was doing youth ministry at my local church and getting a theological degree. And it just sparked in me a vision for, I think these two can be in the same
yeah.
place. I can do
Yeah.
operations and youth ministry. Then I led a big youth ministry up in Indianapolis, Indiana, here in the States, where I led a team. I've always led through people.
Yeah.
I wasn't a classic. If you everybody thinks of youth ministry as the party throwing, pizza delivering leader, and I like a good party, but I was not the goofball,
Okay.
goofy or energetic. I led through people at all
Yeah.
times. I always
Yeah.
gave ministry away. That's how I was kind of wired to do that.
Mm,
Um, and then it was in that time I started getting into executive leadership at that church in Indianapolis. And the Lord called me back to where I was youth pastor before.
mm,
That's where I'm a current member at Sojourn Church here in Louisville, Kentucky. And I just found that I love bringing clarity and
Mm,
leading a team and giving the church a sense of trust,
yeah,
that their resources are being stewarded well, their gifting is being stewarded well, and vision from the top is actually making it all the way down into the feet of the work.
yeah, yeah.
That's where I felt a great burden for.
Yeah. I love that, mate. And I think, yeah, so much of our training talks about that as well. Connecting, those that are delivering ministry on the ground, realizing just what part they're playing in gospel ministry. And you're right. I think they've probably been held separately, haven't they? Kind of operations and
Yeah.
pastoral ministry, but actually bringing them together and realizing that ops is gospel ministry and really helps ministry to move forward. And not only do we see that in scripture, but we also see that in our experience and our practice. And I love that. And I think you touch on a really interesting point because I was kind of doing a church review somewhere last week, and I had somebody who sat in front of me who was the youth leader, and I thought, golly, this guy's got great operational skill.
Hmm.
He can coordinate a huge ministry of volunteers. He's getting a curriculum sorted. He's bringing resource. He's developing people within it. And I'm like, actually, this guy could be something really useful for the church. And it's surprising how many people kind of take that route through children and youth and actually becoming to kind of executive leadership. And have you found that similar in America as well?
I do. I think there's some real reasons for that. And it
Mm,
actually, I'm a church planting guy. I help plant churches throughout the US, internationally. I think church planting is essential for
yeah,
evangelism and disciple
yeah,
making. Yet, my weariness of church planting is that a lot of people bypass the roles like youth ministry, and don't learn some skills that those roles have to
yeah,
offer them.
yeah, yeah,
And one
yeah.
of the here's
Mm,
a couple reasons why I think youth ministry is essential for leadership growth in the church. Is one, you have to be a really good communicator to be a youth
yeah,
minister.
yeah.
If you can teach the Bible to middle schoolers, you can teach it to anybody.
True story. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Two, you have to be on your toes and really good problem solver. The
Mm,
problems that
yeah.
come to you in youth ministry are
Yeah.
not, you can't really anticipate them. You gotta be,
True.
you gotta be ready at all times to, hey, that's not something that was in a playbook of mine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Either whether
Yeah.
it's at a camp or an emergency room visit or a hole in the drywall, like
Yeah.
there's all types of problems you have to deal with in youth ministry that really equip you to your blood pressure not to get up in problems in the future.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I think
Yeah.
youth ministry has a ton of expectations. So you have expectations of kids,
Mm,
of you having a cool ministry or a relational ministry or X, Y, and Z ministry. You have expectations of your leaders that
mm,
they want
mm,
to be equipped, but then
mm.
you have an expectation of parents.
Yeah.
And I think the number one indicator of a leader's capacity for growth is their ability to manage people's expectations.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you can manage everybody's expectations and keep your stress level low
Yeah.
and not
Yeah.
be thrown to the waves of every different person that comes to you and knocks on your door, then you can actually be a really decent leader because you can stay calm. And what actually people want is calmness and
Mm,
trust and
mm.
not actually too free to solve every one of the problems.
Yeah.
And youth ministry trains you for that because if you ride the waves of the emotions of youth ministry, you're not going to make it. You'll be exhausted all the time.
Yeah. 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 I think it's great. I love that kind of managing expectations, mate. That's a really kind of helpful takeaway straight away of what good
Yeah.
leadership looks like. Yeah. And helpful for us in that as well, isn't it? Because I spend a lot of time just going, actually, leaders who come up with kind of big ideas, and there's not just one, there's lots of them. And you're looking at the church, you're looking at the calendar, you're looking at resources, and you're thinking, I don't know if we can deliver this. And I don't want to be the handbrake every time that
Yep.
slows the pace and the one who says no. But actually, yeah, how we help people to come to that realization themselves as well,
Yeah.
is key in this. And managing expectations, I think, is a really helpful point to take away.
Yeah, the book, it's a yellow book, Leadership on the Line. I forget the author of it. I should know the author. I've referenced it so many times. He has a line in there I think is essential for leaders is leadership is disappointing people at the rate they can absorb.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's great.
And it's just if you just got to know when signing up for leadership, you are signing up to disappoint people. That is
Yeah.
what you're signing up
Yeah.
for.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. So true. Yeah. How many times I've done that. And we've got new leaders coming in various different roles in the church. And they often say this, I didn't realize it was going to be this difficult. Working at the church, I thought was going to be just this paradise, this wonderful joy of coffees, books, and just pure fellowship. And you're
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, no, this is not. Yeah, you're not going to sleep well. You're going
Oh
to
yeah.
struggle with these things.
Yeah.
So true. And so your shift from kind of local church into the Gospel Coalition has happened not so long ago, I guess. Is it about a year that you've been in post, something like
I'm
that?
I'm I'm coming up on a year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I guess bringing your skills into this kind of new environment obviously is quite an exciting. You obviously like a bit of a challenge,
Yeah.
and kind of sitting there thinking, right, what am I going to do? How am I going to do this? Tell us a little bit about your new role then, and what you've kind of really enjoyed so far in it.
Yeah, it's a great question. Me and our president, Mark Rogop, we pastored together up in Indianapolis, the church I referenced earlier. We've pastored together before. So he called me last summer to
Mm,
join the team. Um, One is I have ambition and entrepreneurial kind of bent
yeah,
toward me, so challenges do excite
yeah,
me.
yeah, yeah,
And what I love about the Gospel Coalition, well, I'll say what I do, then what I love. What I do is I oversee all our operations from marketing, production, HR. I'll oversee our networks ministry, which is international and regional
yeah,
coalitions. So in a lot of ways, I am the XP of or the operational manager or the executive pastor of the Gospel Coalition because
mm,
the operational manager, if somebody's listening to this, they are the ones that have the widest portion of the org chart, right? The responsibilities
it's
don't
big.
always match up. The responsibilities don't always match up. Um, and it is a learning curve because I've
Yeah.
never led a digital marketing ministry. I've
Mhm,
never led
mhm,
a digital publishing ministry. So it is quite a challenge.
mm,
But what I love about it is I get to lead some of the most caring,
mm,
competent, loving people in the world, serving from all walks of life, from the UK to Central America to almost every state in the US. Is I get to help a team and put wind behind their sails.
mm,
I work with some of the most brilliant people in the church
mm,
that thinking sharply, wisely,
mm,
pastorally on how to help the church.
mm.
Um, I didn't play Euro football. I played American football. I was the offensive lineman. If you're not familiar with American football, offensive linemen are the really, really big guys that push people out of the way so the smaller guys can run through.
Yeah,
So I played offensive line, and I've seen myself as playing that role in my organization. Is
yeah,
I want to make way for really incredible talent and people
yeah,
to do beautiful things.
yeah.
And so
Mm.
yeah, so I am if you're I'll listen to this, I'm the chief problem solver of the
Yeah,
organization. I am the implementer. I'm listening to the vision, and I'm the chief collaborator. I am the spoke in the wheel, trying to help everybody coordinate and cross collaborate across
yeah,
departments at the Gospel Coalition.
yeah. Great, mate. It sounds like a busy job. Yeah. A little bit busy. And that ministry, I mean, I've known it for like probably 15, 20 years. Um, because we had sort of links into kind of different churches into America. It's grown significantly, hasn't it? I mean, you and I were chatting before about it's coming to kind of the UK. It's all
Yeah.
happening, and it's all over the world, isn't it? It's an amazing resource and encouragement to the church, as you've said. Um,
Yeah, so I mean, we have 20 million people that engage with us on an annual basis. We have 19 international coalitions and 32 US coalition chapters. Yeah, we have a robust women's ministry and a Keller Center and a Carson Center. So,
yeah,
yeah, we do quite a bit. And one of my burdens is to not just do a lot, but do it as a healthy team.
Yeah.
So that's the new phase of let's just not do more.
Mm,
Let's do things really well and do it
yeah.
at a pace that our staff can do it 5 years to 10 years from now.
Yeah. 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 There's some wisdom in that, isn't there? Yeah. Yeah. I love that. So, in terms of challenges that you're going to face in the role, it'd be interesting to kind of think about that, but also think about kind of people who are in church roles in America, and what might be some of the similar things. It'd be interesting to have a bit of a conversation on that in terms of the UK as well. Um, let's start with your kind of challenges into your role.
Yeah.
What are you finding difficult in that?
Yeah, I think the pressure is way higher in some ways. Um, when you're in local church ministry, you're not as exposed.
Mm,
So you can have a youth leader or a staff member that has a long on ramp for
yeah.
growth capacity because you're okay with a bad teaching every once in a
Mm,
while or
mm,
a challenging sermon or X, Y, and Z. Whereas when you work for a digital publisher, everything is public.
mm,
And so
mm,
you're really
yeah.
overexposed. So the temptation for perfectionism is really, really high. And
Mm,
so
mm, mm,
one, it's really hard to help employees grow because the pressure is so high.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and as you know, perfectionism can often be the enemy of really good work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you don't do things unless it's perfect.
Yeah.
And that's one of the challenges we have is everything is really overexposed, overanalyzed, over scrutinized, and we have we're public. We're a public ministry, so it's
Mm,
not my job's forced me back on social media, and it's
okay.
not the friendliest place if you don't know
Mm,
that. It's not
mm,
the place where you just go get your soul nourished. It's a
mm,
very
mm,
soul
yeah.
evaporating place. So that's one layer that's challenging. I think the other layer challenging, we're a completely virtual ministry, so we all work from a remote location,
Mm,
and building trust virtually is really hard. You have
yeah.
no
That is.
small talk to do. You have no hallway conversations that
Yeah.
happen. You can't just
Yeah.
jump in an office to have a conversation. And so earning trust takes a lot longer because there's lack of relational component
Mm, mm,
that's built there. So um, trust is the economy of a quality
mm,
organization,
yeah.
and you just have to be really patient on. My philosophy of trust is earned, not just granted.
Yeah.
So earning trust is a really big deal. So we try to make the most of those times in our Zoom calls, or if I'm in a city visiting a staff member. That's really important. That's so I would say those are the top two challenges that make it
Yeah.
really differential than my local church ministry.
Yeah, no, that's helpful. It's interesting, and maybe let's pick up that conversation around trust there, because I think for many people in operations, it's a conversation that I don't often have about building trust and being able to do that right across. Sometimes you do feel like you're in the middle of kind of you're not the senior leader, but you carry a responsibility and you don't have all the authority to act in the way that you might like or you might consider would be helpful. And then you're also serving people who you're leading in volunteer roles. You're also interacting with people that are your peers. So the stretch of where you are, and trust actually is quite a big thing in the middle. And
Yeah.
yeah, love to hear a couple more thoughts on that, Zach.
Yeah. I think the number two person is one of the trust carriers. He carries the
Mm,
torch of the
mm,
trust.
mm,
You think about the scandals we've observed in the church globally. I think one of the largest trust pieces is the operational side,
yeah,
right?
yeah, 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 yeah,
There's whole
yeah,
podcasts, there's
yeah.
whole um, media ministries that
Mm,
are exposing the operational lack of integrity and that's
yeah,
lost trust in the local church.
yeah,
So that is a big burden we carry,
yeah,
that
yeah,
how staff are led, how the finances are managed, how leadership is wielded. Those are
mm,
operational gifts.
yeah, yeah,
And those are probably the three leading factors that made people mistrust the church.
yeah.
And I think we can't be scared of that. Actually, I think we need to own that and say
Mm,
that's actually
mm,
why we should do our
yeah,
job well.
yeah,
That's why we
yeah,
should be really equipped. That's why we should go to trainings.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and trust is continuing to show up over and over again. You earn trust by continuing to show up over and over again with integrity, with competency, and
mm,
with honesty.
yeah,
So
yeah,
integrity is you are the same person all the time. With competency, you have the skills and you can do the job. In honesty, you can admit when you
mm,
fail. I
mm,
think that's the
mm,
biggest piece that people fail to do is I
yeah,
think we're so worried of public perception that we're worried about saying we were wrong.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I've made a financial mistake leading an organization at times and say, hey guys, that's on me. That's
mm,
my
mm,
fault.
mm,
And I think that goes way longer. And you do that 20 times, then we need to have a conversation, right?
yeah,
But if you do it once, don't be scared of, you actually earn trust by that vulnerable moment as
yeah,
well.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, that's really helpful, isn't it? Because the opportunity to learn in front of others, builds trust, doesn't it? And I think you're right. I mean, in our car park, Zach, to kind of fill you in on one of my mistakes was I got I didn't realize they were a rogue company to come in and do some tarmac, and we'd agreed a spot that we were going to do, and I came in the following morning and like the whole, sections of the car park were completely dug up. Um, to the point now I have to commit to getting this fixed ready for Sunday. And I remember getting the bill thinking, this is like 10 times more than we'd agreed. And the guys in our on our team still call it the speed bumps in the Christchurch car park. And they still exist. And every time I drive in, I think, yeah, okay, yeah, I remember those. Yeah, don't get too big in your boots. You think you're some kind of
Uh,
brilliant administrator. You go, actually, yeah, we make mistakes,
yeah.
and you're right, but people watch that and go, how's he going to respond to that? How does he
Yeah.
deal with that? um and is he honest enough to say yeah? And you get to a point where you have to be able to laugh at it, don't you? and
Yep.
and have a joy in it, and a kind of bit of fun about it, and it's so true. And I think people often say to me, like, have you got a working formula, for that kind of middle role? And I always often say, it's about kind of how can I bring clarity to the role? How can I bring care? But the third one is what we're kind of talking about, is that consistency, isn't it? And I think there's a lot of trust behind that word. Can we show up every day and do things consistently? Can we lead our teams consistently and fairly? Can we use the resources well consistently? That people trust us, that when those big decisions come and there isn't necessarily a clear, this is where we need to go moment, they're going to trust us to help to navigate some of those things. And yeah, consistency and trust are super important. Mate, if you got anything else that you think, right, as I do operations, these words are ringing in my head. I want to bring clarity, care. What other things have you got in your kind of backpack that you're pulling out?
Yeah, I mean, this is a word that's been used a lot. And if you want to add another C to your
Hey,
paradigm,
4 C's, let's do it.
is I think calmness.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think we live in a really anxious generation,
Mm,
in an anxious season. Um, I think people wired to do this role, um, have a gifting of this. I'm settled. I need to be
mhm,
settled. I need to be
mhm,
non-anxious. Uh,
mhm.
I I need to actually be able to have a grit to me that can be
Yeah,
punched in the mouth a little bit.
yeah,
Um, so the person, if you're in this role, you need to do the internal work necessarily that it can take criticism
yeah,
and not be
yeah,
thrown off your saddle. You need to be able to lead a congregational meeting if you do congregational meetings, and be able to answer the questions without being highly defensive.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
we're the ones that are leading the budget conversations, and somebody's scrutinizing every little
Mm,
line
yeah,
item. And
yeah,
if we're really anxious and defensive, then we're actually going to cause more anxiety.
yeah,
But if we can absorb that,
yeah,
my our president uses the language of the ministry of absorption.
yeah.
If we can absorb
Interesting.
that, we actually build more trust. Because what I think people really want to know is does this person care enough to listen to me?
Yeah.
They're not actually want you to solve every one of the problems.
Yeah.
But if you can say something like, that's a really good question. Thank you for bringing that
Mm,
to my attention.
mm,
Here's what we did here. We
mm,
may not land the same place on this decision, but we but I understand where you're coming from. That alone, that calmness, that empathy, that connectedness in that
yeah.
conversation, in that leadership, is essential for our operational leadership because we have to be the steady person keeping
Yeah.
the trust at a meter that's viable. Um, the other thing I would say is don't be ashamed of n- being the number two.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
it's a really special role, and I think
Mm,
it's essential
mm,
for the church because
yeah.
you are able, if you're leading operations well, um, you're able to free up really gifted people to do really special things.
Yeah.
You're able to free up your pastor to preach the word of God. You're able to free up your youth ministry leaders to do youth ministry.
Yeah.
Do not grow weary of being a little bit in the shadow
Yeah.
because God sees you.
Yeah.
God
Yeah.
notices you, and really gifted and loving people in your church see you
Yeah.
as well. Do not grow weary of being the number two. It's a hard role, it's a special role.
Mm,
But if you own that role, if you live into it,
yeah.
you are one of the greatest gifts that the local church can have.
Yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
if you do this, the whole church flourishes. If your role flourishes, the whole church flourishes.
Absolutely. Yeah. 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 I think it's absolutely spot on there, isn't it? The link to the gospel, in scripture we see, don't we, that order brings a sense of peace and that calmness. But actually, in Acts 6 as well, as they release those early apostles to do the work of ministry, the effect is, isn't it, that the church grows, isn't it? And so there are these connections that you look and you say, actually, yeah, if I can do this really well, if I can serve our church in the background, and sometimes this unseen, hidden ministry, we can help to propel the gospel to go forward, and that is exciting. And it goes down to the level of details of working with people on the welcome teams, and I love hearing people's testimonies when they get baptized, because there is a story in there of operations. They came to this event, they met this team, that we'd been involved in their training, and they were welcomed in a way that I can come back here. And then they start to experience ministry in the community, and it changes people's lives. And I think sometimes I'll say to our up guys, listen out for those little snippets, because you were involved in those, and that brings great life to the church, and that serves people to hear the good news of Jesus. Come alive with that. Get excited about that, isn't
Yeah.
it? This is a fantastic ministry, I'm excited about it. And I think more and more churches in the UK are starting to see it and go, we need really good ops people that are
Yeah.
not only just practical but also spiritual, that make this connection and go, right, I want to give myself. The mission of our church moves forward, and I'm willing to play parts in the background, do the finances, do the spreadsheets, do the policy work that no one in the church wants to do. But we're going to do it. And that policy will help protect our church, will help our church to flourish in so many different ways. So true.
That's right on. That's right on.
It's great, mate. I love that. And you're have you got anything coming up where you're thinking admin and ops training? Is there anything here that we can kind of promote to say, actually, I know you were talking before about possibly doing another cohort and
Yeah.
training, and if you do have something, then we'll put it in the show notes. But yeah, what have you got going on at the minute?
Yeah, we have we're doing our cohorts more toward leadership. So
Yeah,
one of the things I think leaders aren't prepared for in local church is leading change. Leading change is
yeah,
one of the
great.
most challenging things you can do. So we
Yeah,
have an upcoming cohort this fall on leading change. So you can go
brilliant,
to
brilliant.
gdc.org/cohorts and find that cohort. Our president is leading that. I'll be involved. in that think about all the challenges you face
Mm,
and the obstacles that are in the way of leading that change. It could be as little as a construction project in your
yeah,
building or
yeah,
changing a program in your church. Change is change,
yeah,
and
yeah.
change requires a level of skill and pastoral care to lead through, and that's what we'll be
Mm,
navigating through. Leading Change cohort, tdc.org/cohorts is where you'll find that. And we have in April our registration for our church conference. So those
yeah,
of you in the UK that want to cross the pond and
yeah,
join our conference, we want to be the most helpful place for churches. And
yeah.
so we'll have over 50 different breakouts,
Brilliant.
7 plenary sessions, and those 50 breakouts. Our
Mm,
hope is to cover every aspect of church ministry. So if you're a lay elder, a deacon, a women's
yeah,
ministry leader, a youth ministry worker, I will be leading a breakout session on developing a healthy staff culture at that conference.
brilliant.
That'll be April 5th through 7th. Pre-registration is open for that now.
Great.
You can look up at tdc27.com is where you'll find that. Those are two main things I would point people to right
Yeah,
now.
yeah. No, I love that. And tell us about kind of Gospel Coalition UK. What sort of point is that at to being, quite established and starting to
Yeah.
resource more the UK? What tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, it's a pivotal moment in the life of TDC and the UK because I would say our TDC leadership was so influenced by the ministry that happened in the UK years ago. Even today,
Mm,
with our brothers and sisters that have heralded the gospel from across the pond,
yeah,
and now we have a moment where TDC UK is being formed
yeah,
by several different leaders that you would know of that are forming a coalition leadership team. They are in the leadership phase. We're building the website right
yeah,
now,
yeah. Great.
and they will start producing content and doing events soon. The Graham Nichols is one of the leaders of that. He leads Affinity network of churches there in the
Yeah,
UK. They'll be hosting a conference coming up in the spring, I believe. And
great.
Colin Hanson, our editor in
Yeah,
chief, will be one of the main speakers of that event. So I think that'll be a great starting place. That Affinity conference will be a starting place for you guys to learn more about what's happening at TDC UK.
mate. Fantastic. That's great. Well, love the fact we've been able to get you on the podcast, mate. Thank you so much for your time and all that
Yeah.
you're doing to encourage us is fantastic.
Well, I appreciate your partnership, and it was great to be on and talk operational leadership in the church with you.
It's great, isn't it? It's great. And yeah, hopefully in the podcast, as you've listened, you've really enjoyed this, engaged it. And if you've got any questions or you'd like to find out any more about the Gospel Coalition or about the church office, then please do get in contact at questions at thechurchoffice.co.uk. Just to kind of signpost you to one more thing, the church office is launching its first conference here in the UK in September. The 16th of September, we're going to be hosting it here at Christchurch in Newport. I think we've got about 50 signed up already for the conference. And then we're also going to do something with our partner church in Liverpool. And I think there's 40 already signed up there. And again, we're talking about kind of mind the gap. What kind of leadership do you need to bring in the middle? What kind of management do you need to bring? What do you need to know? And how can you execute that with excellence and with a real heart for the glory of God. So that is kind of happening. Check out our website, sign up for that. If you'd like any more information, then please get in contact. And we'll look forward to seeing you on the podcast again. Thank you, Zach, for your time, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye, everyone.
Enjoy the